What's up, fellas?
Hey, bud.
Hey, can you hear me okay, Kip? You sound perfect.
Yeah, I got my IT specialist on it, and it's actually my daughter.
That's awesome. All right, I'm bringing this in.
Hear me now?
Yeah, I adjusted my hairpiece, Kip, for you before I got on.
Nice. You know what? It looks good this week. Did you move it a little forward?
I did.
Nice.
I put some pins in the back, and I got that spray stuff. That spray stuff that you put on there.
Yeah, it's the same stuff Trump uses.
It's huge. It's a huge victory. It's a huge victory.
Yeah.
Well, hey everybody, welcome to This Week in Lumber with Greg Riley and Kip Fotheringham, who's back with popular demand. Got a bunch of emails that you were from last time you were on, and first of all, kudos to you, because last time we called, man, if people would have listened to you on that one, damn, it would have been nice. Greg, what do you think about that?
I mean, I've always listened to Kip. I find his input as sage advice in the marketplace. No question about it. Man with the inside track on all things SBF.
Yeah, no doubt, Kip. So when we talked last time, you were kind of giving us a heads up on a lot of the disruptions in BC, whether it was rail, getting just logs back, the cost of logs because of the market, because that's kind of lags the price, and just kind of the whole disruption. Look, at mills are still making lumber there, but damn, it's certainly a lot harder, right? And I think that's what you were saying, and that didn't look like it was easing up anytime soon. What's happened since the last time we talked?
Well, I mean, you've got a strange situation in any commodity, if you want to talk about it. We're at all-time highs, highest average price yearly, and you have mills taking downtime, which is not necessarily how commodities work, right? And we're Canfor plateaus down for 3 weeks. West Fraser, the BC government came out in their budget, and they basically said we're anticipating 18% less timber revenue this year, nothing to do with price. And it's a pretty big thing for a government to put it in plain English in their budget. And I don't think it makes any difference what the price of lumber is in SPF. We're going to see 1.5 to 2 billion feet less production. And that's kind of unprecedented in most commodities. The higher the price, the more the production. And we're not going to see it. And it's probably going to go on longer than people think.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I was talking to Greg this morning about how certain things that we historically thought would always make things change, it's not doing that recently. So what do you think, Greg?
If you think about the fall in SBF production, I mean, widely anticipated. I mean, we talked about this. I mean, going back, 10 years ago when BC production was ramped up to cut beetle kill, that there was going to be a fall off. And, I guess one of the things is it's taken longer for that fall off to come. And I mean, to me, I look at it and say, well, BC used to be the dogs that wagged the tail, and whatever it did was the thing that affected the market. And as we move forward, more production out of the southern U.S. and ultimately southern U.S. is going to be the market that dominates what happens in terms of price.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. The sort of, my thesis would be that they're going to add all this production out of, SYP, but I don't think it's coming on nearly as quickly as people expected, and it's due to supply chain getting equipment, but it's mostly due to personnel. Like, how do you go hire 300 people to run a new mill today? You got the railway problem, and which is way more to do with personnel than it is to do with weather. And I mean, people are saying, well, there's going to be 2 billion feet of yellow pine come on stream. I don't see that. It's a great thought, but I don't see how you can hire that many people to run sawmills efficiently, truck drivers, etc. It's going to be slower. Eventually, Greg, you're right. I mean, yellow pine is going to take over, business from spruce. I just think it's going to be slower than people are expecting.
Kip, I have.
Well, I tell you one thing is, we were talking about all the European lumber and in the ports and whatnot. I will say this is, if it wasn't for European lumber along the East Coast, the price of 2x4s would be like over $2,000.
Yeah, so I Kip brought up transportation real quick, and it's interesting. A couple people that we all know called me last night today talking about, so the CP rail they voted to potentially strike. Does that right, guys? That sound?
Yeah, I mean the
CP shipping railway
unions, the railway unions are notoriously they always vote in that manner. I don't think that there's any chance of them going on strike for a long period of time. It may be 2 or 3 days, but it's crucial to our country to have CN and CP shipping. And they will mandate them back to work. But the real problem is when they start to slow play it, right?
So that's already happened. That's already happening on one of the big U.S.
How will we be able to tell the difference from now?
No. I look at one of the guys called me this morning. Another guy yesterday say, "Hey, look at one of the big railroads. These guys are basically on a working strike right now. They're moving really slowly. They're not getting things done real quickly. And like you hit it, Kip. It's like we thought that Greg and I are always talking about, well, these transit times always expand during these times of the year. Why don't they fix it? Well, you got a lot of reasons why people don't want to show up for work, and they're not showing up for work. And it's hard to get the power that have human beings that have to be on it to do it. And that's one of the reasons why it's not getting remedied, right?
Well, and part of it is I talked to someone yesterday, and they said, so like you have a carload of lumber. It doesn't matter what it is, and it gets bad ordered. It needs to be a new wheel or something or other. Those things are not getting fixed anytime soon, and it's part of it is obviously supply chain getting the parts, but part of it is the guys are just. I distinctly remember, 15 years ago when the CN had a fuss with their union, and the guys would be like, they're driving the train down the track, and they would stop for 6 hours because they saw a deer on the tracks. Obviously they didn't. And like they can slow play it. It's a regulated industry. You can slow play it as much as you want to. And they're obviously doing it right now.
So Kip, let me ask you this. I mean, I think that, it's my opinion that, there's no, two things is the market has to stop going up before it goes down. That's like wise old trader told me that one time, and I've never forgotten it. It has to stop going up before it can go down. Okay. But it's my opinion that until we see loosening in the supply chain, the transportation, there's probably no relief to the upward momentum of price. What do you think about that? And when do you see? I mean, I think what the marketplace wants to hear is, when do you see that happening?
I mean, Goldman Sachs said it the other day that what's going to stop commodities going up with our geopolitical situation is demand destruction. And like it has not happened, but on the home center side, eventually you're not going to build the $24,000 tree house for your kids when OSB is $100 a sheet. Until then, as long as the housing business and everything else, it's going to slowly, I believe, just keep creeping up until people say no. And
so Ash and I were talking, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. That's what we were talking about. So, okay, we look at the big spread between permits and completions, right? All right. So does that mean, what am I missing there? I'm always saying something should be remedied there. Where's the lumber going? But maybe I'm really missing the repair and remodel side and other stuff right now that's not taken into account in that permits versus the widespread and built in homes not being completed yet. Is that kind of what we were saying, Greg?
Well, I think it's twofold. What turned the market last year was home centers pushing back on their VMIs, not drawing as much. So mills had more lumber available to the market because they weren't taking it. That was what the combination of that and the delay of multifamily projects. Those two things are what rolled the market over. I guess an interesting thing that I've been seeing is the inquiry level for multifamily jobs has picked up substantially in the last, I'm going to say, week, 10 days. I've seen just a huge influx of new quotes and, people that are coming back around on things that may have been quoted in, January or late fourth quarter. So that's a wild card to me as to how that plays out. Do those projects get delayed, or is that another like kind of level of demand that needs to kick in?
Well, I mean, the one thing I would say is talking to mills that have extensive home center type business. Last spring it went off the charts, and then way above regular normal business, and then it obviously dropped off a cliff, and we saw all this home center wood being sold as 2 and better. What I'm seeing this year is it's just regular. The mills are not selling them 25% over normal, and they're not taking it. And so I think that what happened last year, I don't think is an issue this year.
Good point. I want to bring up something that you shared with me Saturday, Kip. Let's just look at this. This is pretty. You just think of these in terms of, okay, just to let everybody know. Look at these. This is the range that CME grade lumber traded in basically for the whole year, right during these time frames. Is that correct, Kip?
Yeah.
Yeah. So look at this: 66, 100, 85, 180, and 17. Remember, 2018 volatile year, $357 a thousand. $131 a thousand in 2019, $672 a thousand in 2020, $1,445 in 2021. And I think if I just did the math, that's almost 95 cents per foot for a 2x4 difference in volatility. What the price movement was in 2x4. And
what are we year to date right now? About 300 and something.
Yeah, it started the year at 1,000 and we're it's about $300, rough and dirty.
Yeah, which is crazy because you think about it. If this thing continues the trend, like Greg, you always say the trend is your friend, right? Where are we going to be this year? We have a lot more potential volatility on this, and I don't know what it's going to be. It's going to swing around on the tips quite a bit. So a couple.
Nick, does Nick want to bring? You want to bring up the chart, Ash? You want to bring up the poll?
Yeah, we will do that. Boom. There you go. There's the poll. Let's see if I can zoom in on that. So, Greg, talk a little bit about this.
So I've been doing these polls now for about a year, and I continue to try and fine tune them so that we can get some really good insight into the psyche of the market. And this one in particular, I really I limited the choices quite a bit, but I guess the thing that I find shocking is that 54% of the respondents felt that the market was going to be, that's a 50 to 60% increase and go above the prior all-time highs. I'm just going to say that that's not going to happen.
Is that the wrong one?
I'm just going to tell you right now, it's not going to happen.
Let me make sure I got the right. Make sure I got the right one up there.
Way too many people thinking that. It's just I'm just going to say it's not going to happen.
There you go. I had the wrong one up. There you go. There's the right one. So 54% new highs, 1,800 to 2,000. This is the high of the year, or look out going under 1,000. Interesting. All right, we'll pull.
Well, I've kind of been on the same bandwagon for a little while. Is that we've never, we talked about it last time, Greg, our yearly high to low was $130, and last year it was $1,400. I don't believe that with the supply of SPF, and it will be filled in. Of course it will. It'll be filled in by Southern Yellow Pine or European spruce or something, Russian, if we're allowed to buy that again.
Maybe not that.
Yeah, maybe not that. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna go with we'll go with something else. But
yeah, exactly.
Chilean pine. Okay, but I believe that the supply out of BC, which is a significant part of the market, and especially drives the futures market for now, it's going to go down significantly. So the chances of the disaster of last year when we dropped 75%, I don't believe that's possible. We can go to $1,500 and we can go back to $900. I don't think you're going to see $500.
1,500 to 900. That seems like a lot of money.
Well, but that's a market. It's the 75% drop that, clipped a lot of people. And, that's not just a bruise. And when it goes from 1,700 to 500, the first 700 of it, there's no trading. We've all seen the PO books get closed, right? So your next sale is $900.
One of the things that I keep trying to, assess in the market is, given the stretched supply lines, people's inventory, what have end users had to do in order to, because number one job of a lumber yard is don't run out, right? Price is secondary to that. So I keep trying to say, well, geez, does this mean that, because of how long things are taking, are guys out at, 100, 120 days worth of inventory, or, after last year, are they just working so much harder to keep it at, 55 or 60 days and, backfilling as they have to? That's something I think it's key to what's going to happen in the marketplace over time.
Well, I think the key to it is that, when you get, let's just say West Fraser, we're shipping mid-March, but really it's kind of mid-April when you actually get the rail car. So so does the distributor, who's the guy in the middle who does the fill-in truck business, do they have enough wood that they can kind of get through into May? And I think your answer to that will be look at the March contract. Are people going to buy that for delivery because it's quicker? And in the next 10 days, that'll tell you how much inventory people have. And in my personal opinion, from talking to people, is everyone's worried about what happened last year, and they have 10, 15, 20, 25% less inventory than they did last year.
Yeah, we're all kind of creatures of what's happened to us most recently, and that kind of is the thing that defines what our actions are, because we look at the the marketplace through that prism.
Yeah, no doubt. Somebody just said hi, Kip. Been a long time, but they didn't say who it was. So whoever it is,
male or female?
I don't know. Hi from Colorado. Really hard to find 23 30-second TNG and 19 30-second square edge OSB.
You know what? That's what the MX platform's for, Ash. You guys got that stuff going everywhere. I see it. It's flying all around the country. It's crazy.
We actually sold. Well, I mean, it's the most homogeneous product out there, so that should be the biggest thing we sell on here, right? So we do move a lot of that around. We had 19 30-seconds and 23 yesterday. Bill Jazier, hello, gentlemen from Charlton, Massachusetts. Then this is sometimes we get a mix of all kinds of people in the, we're talking at a high level about, we're kind of the tip of the spear when the market moves. And then there's people on this that are on the home building retail level listening to this that sometimes don't see the market react at the same pace. So some people are asking, like, the BC trucking issue warranted mill shutdowns, correct? Question mark. But now that is mostly resolved. That's a no, right? I mean, the thing that could have played into it, but the big thing was the inability to get rail cars back and to ship the current rail cars they had. So and other issues, right, Kip, to slow things down.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, mills have built inventory. I mean, obviously, when you're getting 30% of the rail cars, but I personally believe, you've got mills, taking downtime. Canfor is taking plateau down for 3 or 4 weeks. The wall of wood theory is going to be less than the marketplace thinks, and it's also going to be longer, because normally when we've had these problems like 2018, it's kind of weather related with the railways. It's now personnel related. They can't get the guys. I mean, I talked to a mill. The guy couldn't come across the border because he didn't have COVID. So then they bring in the other guy. He didn't have a vaccination. So they bring the other guy. The other guy comes in to run the train, and he doesn't have a passport. So it's a bunch of issues that's going to take longer than just, it's spring, so the trains are going to roll. I don't believe that really is the issue.
Yeah, that's what somebody said here. Also, what about the stories of stacking up inventory at some mills? I think you just addressed that. Brian.
Well, I mean, my other thing always about mill inventory is the strongest place for inventory to be is at the mill. They're the strongest holders of inventory, because guess what? Oh, that's right. They always have a lot of inventory. It's just a question of how much is dressed, how much is whip, and how much is going to be produced. That having been said, if you're only getting 50% of your rail cars every day, week after week, and you build that inventory up, the supply to the marketplace changes when you start getting 75 or 80% of your cars. And then it changes when you're able to get 100% of your cars. You never really get, Kip, and this, have your years of mill experience. When it's really great, maybe you get 110% of the cars that you normally can do, because you can only load so many per day. And, there's just the physical logistics. It's not like if you get 50% of your cars for a month, that all of a sudden you're going to get 150% for a month. That's not going to happen. it takes a long time to reduce that mill dressed inventory, and it bleeds out into the market over multiple months.
So, it's how much track you have at the mill, right? Like, a lot of mills got room for 10 cars. They don't have room for 20 cars. If you look at the shipments, the shipments in February from Canada were the lowest in 5 years. And I've talked to a couple mills that they're saying March isn't. They have no anticipation that it's gonna get any better.
I think what the CN should do is they should raise their rates because of the service that they're providing. If they got more money, maybe they could get more cars.
So
that's right. We just did get rate increases. That's right. Okay.
Brian McParland. By the way, Kip, the person that said hello was Bob Schneider. Brian McParland.
Say hi to Bob for me.
Hey, Bob. Kip hears you. A quote from a noted industry analyst who Kip well knows regarding Canfor's results from this morning stated, while we remain extremely bullish over the near term, we caution industry reports indicate inventory levels at the mill are building up, which could lead to a significant influx of wood once supply chain constraints ease. That I didn't know that was at Canfor. It must have been Canfor's earnings this morning, or was that?
Yeah.
Am I wrong? Okay.
Did they make any money?
A touch, just a
little bit,
just a smidgen.
I remember when the only one in the industry that made any money was the railroad. Now, mills are getting back at them.
Hey, Kevin's asking a question here. Somebody just said, "Hey, Greg, there is a better bid on your 2x4 104 MX Premium Doug Fir now on the platform."
There damn better be. That stuff. It's premium. Come on.
So if you can hit that on the show, it would be great. And then
all right,
Kevin,
hang on.
We want to hear the chainsaw too. And while we're saying that,
hang on, I'm just refreshing right now. Boom. Oh, yeah, it's a little better. We'll do that. Just so everybody can get a chainsaw. This is what happens when transactions happen on the platform.
There we go. There's a live transaction on the MX platform.
Boom.
Hey,
that just happened.
This is my shameless plug before we answer some more questions. If you like what you're seeing on this public broadcasting network that we're presenting to you on MX, then the way you can support us is by using our platform and giving us orders, buy and sell. So mxlumber.com, sign up, register, and you can buy and sell tomorrow. So Kevin Otto brought something up. He said, can the logic that lumber can't go below 900 be explained again? We were told the same thing last year. What is the difference this time?
It's simply that, the BC government came out with their budget, and in the budget is we are going to get 1.5 to 1.8 billion less board feet of production from this province. It's done. It's not in the future. It's done. And I think you're going to see, once we come out of this logistical problem, I think you're going to see a bunch of mills either go down. Canfor at $1,300, Canfor reduced their production at a plateau by, 200 million feet, 150, 175, something like that. Well, who does that? There's a reason. There's just not enough. There's not enough logs to produce 10 billion board feet out of BC anymore. And I kind of think the BC government's saying it's 8.5 billion. Well, 1.5 billion feet of a 55 billion foot market in North America is significant. You're going to feel that. And looking at the price of lumber right now, I think we are feeling it.
So I'll just go counterpoint to you, Kip, in that, there's a whole myriad of factors that I think could make the market go back to the cost of production. And then we can talk about what we think cost of production is. But all commodities, doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter what all the factors are, they all ultimately gravitate to the cost of production. And if we look at what lumber has done historically, the higher it goes above the cost of production, ultimately it drops down below the cost of production for a period of time. We talked about demand destruction. Depending on how that plays out, that could be the factor that pushes us there. And I mean, we haven't talked about the geopolitical landscape, but somebody pushes the wrong button and boom. I mean,
yeah.
Who cares about your price of your 2x4, right?
Real quick. So the geopolitical landscape. I'm going to really butcher these numbers. Russia probably makes about 50 billion board feet of lumber a year. Am I off on that? I don't
know. We need Russ Taylor on the line. We need.
All right. Well, let's just say they make a significant amount of lumber every year. Some of it goes to Europe. Some of it goes to China. Some of it goes to the Middle East, South Africa. If there are political disruptions there, and we all know sometimes it's because of that little bit of extra production coming on or going off that causes prices to either move up or down. So what is the unknown, or I shouldn't say what's the what if part of that lumber is disrupted and Europe needs to keep more or send more to China instead of to here, which they do get a decent price over in Europe right now for lumber also, is from what I hear. What happens? I mean, is there any potential, anything potentially out there that could disrupt the Euro supply coming over here with what's going on over there?
Yes, and yes.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to a trader yesterday, and he's got containers in Latvia coming from Russia that are not going to ship. But I mean, overall, China's the big one. They're like 60% of their imports are from Russia, and with everything else going on, I don't think there's a chance that Russia's going to slow that down. They need the hard currency, right?
If anything, they're gonna pick that up because China's the only one that can pay them.
Okay,
100%.
They're the only one that can pay them.
It's a good point. All right. Yeah, I never thought about that. All right, right on. So if you're talking to a buyer of lumber right now that needs to cover some stuff, how far out do they think? And we're not making any suggestions here, just to think, how far out do they need to cover it right now? I mean, or I should say, if they're wondering whether they should buy, if they haven't bought already, basically with the order files where they're at, how far out do you think they should look at something? Oh, there we go. Russian production, 38 square meters, 38,917,965 square meters. What's
That's cubic meters, buds. Cubic meters.
Cubic meters. Yeah. What's my calculation on that one, Kip? Then to make board feet.
That's a couple of billion board feet. Big number.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay. What would that be? Would that be? What would that be?
I know you guys don't do metric that well, but that's like when it has a 3 behind it, it's not squared, it's cubed. I know it's just a little point, but
hey, are you making fun of Americans' education down here? I'm sensing that because I took metrics for one day in fourth grade.
It's gotta be 20-something billion board feet,
Oh yeah, I mean they're a big producer of softwood lumber. I mean they have 11 time zones. How big do you think the country is?
Yeah, look at that. It's 28 billion. I think it's billion, not million.
That would make sense. So we were talking about how far would you tell people to cover, and what was the answer there, Greg? I know you were mentioning something about multifamily today and saying.
So, I mean, when I'm talking to my when I talk to my multifamily, basically, ship time right now is the soonest shipment is realistically 3 to 4 weeks or sooner. Some stuff can be a little sooner. That's out of reloads, and that's factoring things in. So I'm basically saying, hey, if you want to start anything between now and like mid late June, I don't think you're going to get a lot cheaper price waiting until the last minute. You might, or you might pay a lot more. I do think that, and I'm telling everyone that, hey, number one is if you can delay a project to the third or fourth quarter. I mean, there's significant discounts in the forward market that are available to you. And, that if you're comfortable with what those numbers are, you should lock that in. If you want to, play for the lower numbers and be on the market, you can delay your project to the third or fourth quarter, then you have a better chance of getting lower prices than today than now.
What's your thought, Kip?
I mean, I still go back to the same thing. I think supply is going to be constrained going forward, regardless of logistics. I would say that I think Q2 is basically in the bag as far as production and pricing. I mean, when have we not had a significant price correction in Q3? And it's mainly due to demand, right? Demand starts to go down, and mills can produce a lot more in the summer than the winter. I think Q2, if you have any business in Q2 that you are technically short on, it should be covered. In Q3, I would definitely expect, we have a correction of, like Greg, you and I talked, like 1,500 to 900. That's a big number, and
a lot of money.
And I would be surprised if we didn't.
Right on. So
to your point, if you think of like most inventories right now, if guys are 60 days, that puts them into early May. If they're 100 days, that puts them into early June. So just by accident over the next 2 or 3 weeks, guys will have the second quarter covered by accident.
Yeah.
I mean, fill in buying, contracts, etc.
Look, it's been a tough job being a retail lumber buyer the last 3 or 4 months, right? They're straight out.
Toughest job in the industry.
Yeah. So kudos to you guys. Well, look at everybody. I appreciate Kip and Greg, and I really like the point counterpoint. I think we could take this, we could syndicate this potentially. It's a good view to everybody, and I think you guys did a good.
You ignorant. I can't say that on live broadcast. Okay, but you know what you fill that in with.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. And if you want, we'll have a YouTube link to this after the show. I'll send to Greg and Kip. Anybody want to watch any of this later, feel free to do it. I appreciate all your guys' time today.
Thanks for having me on.
Buddy. Good to see you.
Yeah, guys. All right.
Cheers.
Cheers.